everybody, and welcome to Kickin' It on the Blue Couch podcast. I am your host, Casey, and we are here with my co-host, Miss Lania.
Hi, guys.
Hi, guys. It always sounds the same. So today we're talking about apologies, saying sorry, receiving a sorry. Do we really need it? I can understand that sometimes it's hard to apologize. Sometimes it's hard to give that apology. Rather, it's because the lack of wanting to take accountability or recognizing and agreeing who was wrong in the situation. So I Googled 2 definitions of forgiveness, and it came back with decisional forgiveness and emotional forgiveness. So, decisional forgiveness involves making an active decision to replace negative behaviors toward the person who's wronged you with positive ones. And then, emotional forgiveness, the genuine replacement of negative feelings toward the person with positive ones. What do you think?
About the definitions,
Uh-huh.
I feel like those are 2 different ways to handle forgiveness, but I don't hear a definition of forgiveness in those. But I'm not really sure why.
So, how do you forgive a person who isn't sorry? Before we even get to who isn't sorry, how do you forgive?
To forgive is basically allowing the things that somebody did to you or how they made you feel. You have to take your power back.
Okay.
I think that's how you start forgiving, because usually the reason someone needs your forgiveness is because they hurt you, which means you gave them the power to do something to you, whether it was emotional, mental, sometimes physical. They had some type of power over you, and they used it to harm you instead of making you feel better.
Okay, I can agree with that. I do like the part of taking your power back, but sometimes there's not always. Sometimes it's not always the fact that you allowed somebody to do this to you, because when you think about children who grew up without one of their parents, like say a mother or father chose not to be in that person's life, the child had no decision in that. I didn't give you the power to do that to me, but I can carry that hurt with me for the rest of my life, or I can choose to forgive you and move on with my life. You know what I mean? So I do like the fact of taking back your power, because that means a lot. Even phrasing it that way is real empowering. What about forgiving somebody who isn't sorry? So, how do you do that?
You actively decide that whatever they did, whether it was intentional or unintentional, and that it hurt you, you acknowledge the hurt, you acknowledge the fact that it made you feel some type of way, and then you actively decide that you don't want those feelings anymore.
Is it that easy?
I mean, it's not going to be easy, but that's really what has to be done.
Okay. Can you do it though? Do you feel like you can forgive somebody who owe you an apology?
For the sake of my peace, I feel like I have to, because there's people that hurt me who did it on purpose or don't know they hurt me at all, and I have to actively know, like, this happened to me, but it's not going to define me, and I have to forgive the person who caused me the pain.
I really like that. I do really like that. I will say though, for me, I'm at that space now. I'm there, but last year I was not there. I was not at that space. For a long time, I wasn't in that place. And I used to carry things with me. First of all, I'm a big grudge holder.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still working on these things, but I know how to actively identify the things that I need to do to get the things done.
I can do that now, but it just wasn't always like that for me. I can remember feeling all the feels that comes with holding grudges, feeling all the feels that comes with somebody who did me wrong. Like, I want revenge. Like, I'm gonna make you feel what I feel, but that wasn't. Yes, that was. But that's not always the answer. 9 times out of 10, that's never the answer. But because we're human, we go there. And it took me going to therapy to realize that I have to have conversations with people or with myself to come to terms with the fact that I have to get past it. I have to recognize that the situations happen however they happen. People did whatever they did, and I have to decide rather to stay in that moment or create my own moments going forward.
So, I have a question because you said create your own moments or stay in the moment going forward. What about the things that we didn't create or the spaces we didn't choose to be in but they still occurred?
So give me an example.
You talked about forgiving people that wasn't sorry as if a parent wasn't around from in your childhood or something like that. That space we didn't decide to be in or we didn't create it for ourselves. But in certain spaces, you have to know that it's not your fault that these things happen, but it still makes you feel like you missed out, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So how do you do one of the two of the things you did? You just said you have to choose.
It's hard as heck. I think you have to first understand that that's where it's coming from. So I can use myself as an example. As a child, I grew up with a lot of resentment towards certain parts of my family because of decisions that were made for me, and I didn't find out until later on in life. And I was mad. I was upset with a lot of the adults in my life who made me feel certain type of ways. So like I grew up feeling lonely, because I couldn't connect with different parts of my family, thinking that it was their choice not to want to connect with me, or because parents and things like that. And I had no control over that. I had to realize that that's where it was coming from. I had to realize that I need to have conversations with other people to figure out the root of those feelings for me. And do I hold on to the fact that I grew up feeling like that, or do I take the situation for what it is and build relationships going forward, or do I can't figure out the word that I'm trying to say. Do I build relationships going forward, or do I just stay stuck in the moment? And for a long time, I chose to stay stuck in the moment because there was nothing else that I knew to do. I chose to be mad. I chose to be angry. I chose to put blocks up. I chose to block people. Like, if you didn't want nothing to do with me then, you can't have nothing to do with me now. But now that I realize that may not have been the situation, or whatever the situation was the past, and I decided, okay, from this day forward, I get to determine how I interact with people, or how I allow people to interact with me. So it was still an active choice, but that was me deciding to move forward. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me.
So do you think it's situational that people can actually do that? Like, let's say a spouse cheated or something like that. Can you forgive that person if they never offered an apology, or if they made excuses for their behavior, or if it wasn't genuine?
Can I forgive them?
Uh-huh.
I think it is situational. I think it depends on what I'm forgiving, what needs to be forgiven, and it depends on actually seeing change. Because some people might not offer what you need them to offer, but they change the way that they do things to show you that they are actively trying to be better for whatever the situation is. Like, say there was people in your life that for a reason you thought they didn't want to be in your life, but when you got older and old enough to make your own decisions, they decided to come back around, and they're like, hey, this is what happened this happened when you were younger, so I didn't really have a choice to do these things, but now that you can make your own choices, I'd like to be a part of your life. that makes me feel like that's something that I feel like can be forgiven, because I don't know what really happened and the things that I couldn't control, where people were controlling things for me. But having a conversation with somebody, or not having a conversation with somebody, but seeing that they actively want to be a part of my space, might make change my mind.
Conversations are so important. They are so important. And one thing about forgiveness, though, it has to be for you. Because rather a spouse cheat, or a family member pop back up in your life, or a friend breaks a bond, me choosing to forgive that person does not mean I have to continue to have that person in my life. Like the example you gave, somebody pops back up in your life and gives you an explanation. I can choose to forgive all the things that I thought, all the things that I thought were going on in my mind, and build from going forward. But that also has to look like we're no longer bringing that past stuff into this. There's no more of, your mom used to say this, or your dad used to say that, or this friend this. Like, we have to both decide to move forward and create.
See, but that's the thing, because I am actively trying to forgive you, but is there some things I just can't forget? Because do they go hand in hand? If I say I'm forgiving you, does that mean I have to forget what happened also?
No, absolutely not. You're probably never going to forget. But when you choose to forgive somebody, you choose to decide what happens going forward. But if you constantly reflect back to the past because you didn't forget, if you allow those things to continue to drive your emotions, then have you actually forgiven the person? No, you're not going to forget it, but that doesn't mean we got to throw this back out there every opportunity we get to lowball the other person. Because then have you actually really forgiven the situation? It doesn't even have to be a spouse. It could be a friend. It could be family, siblings, if we still want to lowball, if we still want to go back to situations that cause another person to feel alienated, that's some circumstantial forgiveness. That's not true forgiveness.
So what does true forgiveness look like to you?
It means leaving a situation where it was at and deciding to move forward. And again, it doesn't have to mean you and that other person moving forward. It means you deciding to move forward and creating what that's going to look like. Sometimes me personally, recently had to go through all of these emotions. Like, I actively am choosing to forgive people who caused me a lot of hurt and pain in my life for a long time, and even recent hurt and pain. But I left those people where they were at. Don't mean no ill will to nobody. I want to see everybody win, but just from a distance. Like, I'm rooting for y'all. I'm rooting for whoever it is. But forgiveness for me means that I want more, better, deserve. So I'm choosing that. What do you think? What that look like to you? Have you had to experience forgiving somebody who wasn't sorry for your own sake?
Realistically, I feel like there are some some people I should be forgiven, but I haven't made it to that space yet.
Okay.
And I haven't made it to the space of forgiving the people who aren't sorry. Now, I've worked on forgiveness in my space, especially going through the things in therapy and stuff like that. But I actively had conversations with these people, and I've told them how they made me feel, and they've given me the apology or the change in behavior that I needed to know that they don't no longer want to be in that space either. But the forgiving the people who aren't sorry, I don't know if I've had to do that yet, or if I'm ready. Because maybe
That's a big one.
Because I have lost people that I thought was going to be in my space forever, but I don't have ill feelings towards them, but I don't know what I would be forgiving them for right now.
Okay. I mean, not being ready is real. And when you think about, well, what am I actually forgiving this person for? Do you still have any lingering feelings of your own? And the only way to move past that person or those people is offering up some type of forgiveness so that you can let it go.
I don't know. I know that I have lost a lot of people who are still alive. And I can't say that I haven't moved on from the bonds that I've had with them because they definitely changed and they look different, but I'm not like, oh, they did this to me and they made me feel like this, so that's why we're done. Okay. It's just like, it's more of I was growing this way, you was growing that way, so we grew apart.
So I think that's different then. Yeah. You don't have to wait on an apology to move to grow in separate directions. We're adults. We're growing individuals. We're going to grow in separate directions. But when a person has hurt you in a way, like it hurts to end a friendship or lose a friendship, leave a friendship. That hurts. Relationship, any type of ship, right? But when a person has done something wrong to you and started treating you different as a result of their behaviors, then I think that's when we have to decide, I'm going to forgive this person for not, even though they're not sorry or haven't offered up a sorry or a genuine I'm sorry, for the sake of me to be able to leave it where it's at. But it's okay if you haven't gotten there yet. It's okay if anybody hasn't gotten there yet. But it's important to know that it's necessary to get yourself to that space. Because that other person may not even realize that they said something wrong, did something wrong, or they may not even care. But you're the one sitting with it, being bothered by it, and feeling
I think that's the thing. Like, a lot of the things that I let go, when I let them go, I forgot them. Not because of anything besides choosing my peace. If I felt like you belonged here right now, you would still be here, and that's how I deal with it. Like, it's not like this person never said sorry, so I'm not forgiving of them. I just don't. Some things you expect the unexpected sometimes, and that's not to say that that's a coping mechanism, but sometimes the people that you've been around and held on to for a long time, you know their patterns, you know what type of people they are. And sometimes you just come to grips with that. This is how they are. And because that's how they are, I can't allow it to dictate how I want to be anymore. So I actively remove myself from certain spaces, and it's been allowing me to flourish in a different space, and it's not hindering me because I made a decision for myself.
So that's forgiveness all right there.
Well, if that's the case. But am I forgiving them, or am I forgiving myself for allowing myself to be in that space?
You are forgiving the situation. It doesn't have anything to do with the other person. Because in order for you to be able to move forward peacefully, you have to let certain situations go, and that's forgiveness. It doesn't necessarily have to be I'm sorry, okay, I forgive you. Because again, forgiveness isn't for the other person. It's for you. So whatever it takes or looks like for you to be able to healthily whatever the word is.
Making a word up.
Whatever.
I really do.
Whatever it takes for you to be able to move forward in a healthy manner.
There you go.
Boom, got it. I just try to put that together real quick. But whatever it takes, whatever that looks like for you, is forgiveness, because you're growing from that situation. And a lot of people have to realize that. It doesn't necessarily have to be I'm sorry, okay, I forgive you. Because you could tell me you forgive. I could tell you I forgive you 100 million times and still harvest those feelings inside of myself. That means I'm still being bothered by it. I'm still hurting. So one thing that you said is, you said something about pushing the feelings aside and choosing to move forward. And I was going to ask you, do we actually forgive, or do we bury those feelings? But you explained it, and you actually do forgive, because if you're able to peacefully move past that, then the feelings aren't buried. Because if that same situation presented itself again, guarantee you'll act differently.
Absolutely.
And that's how you know that you actually forgave the situation and moved past it. Do you think people avoid having difficult conversations because they fear not getting an apology, or they fear the lack of genuineness in an apology, or they don't know how to handle the situation?
You want me to break it down in different aspects? Because that was a lot.
That was a lot. It's really just okay. Do you think people fear having difficult conversations for any reason in particular? But when you think about apologizing or getting a I'm sorry, do people avoid having those conversations because they don't want to hear the I'm sorry?
I don't think people avoid having conversations because they don't want to hear the I'm sorry. I do think people avoid conversations because they don't think they're going to get the I'm sorry. There was a lot of things that I had to come to grips with as far as like having conversations with people, because I always wanted to shield people from being hurt, because I felt like nobody ever shielded me from being hurt. So I always tiptoed about certain things that bothered me and the aspects of the closest people to me, because I didn't want them to feel like I was trying to hurt their feelings if I told them this mattered to me. So I do feel like sometimes people won't have the hard conversations because they know that if this person genuinely care about you, that whatever you bring up is going to hurt them, and you know that you might not get the outcome that you're looking for.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. One thing that I had to learn in therapy, my therapist said, you have to have these conversations for you, not with any expectation to clear your own mind, to have your own peace. The conversation has to be had for you. You can't have expectations of the other person, because you never know what you're going to get from them. And I wanted the apology, I wanted it. And for years I avoided conversations. And then last year, went on a confrontation tour.
I was on like Who Wants to Smoke with Me.
Yes.
But it wasn't because I wanted to hurt. Hurt people. And that wasn't my intentions. It was just to get the hurt off of me.
Exactly.
And once I acknowledged it, and once I told you how I felt, if you chose not to treat me differently or show me that what I told you mattered, that was how I realized who needed to be in my space and who didn't.
So I couldn't agree with that more, because when I went on this confrontation tour last year, I had to say the things that I needed to say. I needed them to hear what I had to say, because those are the feelings that have been bothering me. That is I've been holding on to. And your response showed me whatever I needed to do moving forward is my choice. That's what I had control over. And that was me recognizing the fact that I had finally forgiven things that I've been holding on to for so long. I'm not going to forget them. I still think about them, but I don't no longer get triggered by them. Mm-hmm. And that showed me I've grown past those situations.
I read something earlier, and it said that people who know your triggers and still choose to trigger you don't deserve any space in your life.
Oh, that is good.
And it was like, who are you talking to?
That is good.
Literally, I was like, when I read it, I was just like the mic just needed to drop at that point, because there's no way that you can actively tell me you care for me in any aspect, in any ship, in friendship, relationship, parenting ship, in any aspect of anything. You can't tell me that you care for me if you do the things that you know gets me into a space that it takes me time to get back out of.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And one thing that you said is, if the person knows your triggers. So if you don't know that this is a trigger for me, now I can communicate that to you. I can let you know, this is what hurt me. This is why I reacted the way that I reacted. This is why I shut down, all the things. Because me now at this age going through therapy and all those
Oh
things,
my
I can
goodness,
recognize
I can actually
that.
do that. Do you know how good that feels?
Right.
To know where you could be like, yo, right here is where
Right.
you had me messed up at.
Yep.
Like, because I literally couldn't do it before.
You know, I have people listening can't see, but right, you know, I keep these like emotion wheels on my walls because I used to only have certain emotions, you know, mad, sad, happy, angry. I'm now so in tune to my emotions that when I feel it and I'm starting to feel the feels, boom, I can tell you what that feeling is so that you know this is not it. You know, don't treat me this way. I don't want to feel this way. So I can communicate that now. But more importantly, I can recognize that. It's not me being sad. No, I'm not sad. I'm pissed. I'm furious.
I'm livid.
Yes.
Okay?
So now that I can communicate that, I can have healthy communication with people who can receive that. Now, them receiving it, I have no control over. But if I can tell you that this is how I felt, this is where you had me messed up at, then we can move forward. Now, if you choose to continue to do the same thing, I now know how I need to move for me.
But I know also that I'm not going to keep having that this is for me conversations, because once I tell you this is for me, I'm not going to keep doing it with the same people, because you're actively showing me that you don't care about what the things, especially the work that I'm doing, because me being anybody in my life at this time has been in my life for some time. So you see the difference in my communication. You see the difference in how I receive things and all of that. So if you are actively still trying to depict me as that person that I was a couple years ago, it shows me exactly where we stand and exactly where I need to be. And that's out of your way.
Exactly. And you know, something that I always see on social media, well, maybe not so much anymore. I see it a little bit now, but that's your sister. It's okay. Forgive her. That's your mom. You know, that's your aunt. Don't say nothing like that. No, I don't care who it is.
Mom,
sister,
sister, son. Sorry. No, I'm keeping my babies. But everybody else, y'all ain't listen.
I will
rope, okay?
Just how it was done, it can be undone.
Listen.
Blood does not change the fact that I have these boundaries for me. You can, if you choose not to respect them, I choose to move on with my life without you. And that's just gonna have to be okay. And I love that now that I'm seeing the world is reacting that way. We don't have to tolerate shameful relationships in our lives anymore. Just because they're family, friends, just because of history, just because of past bonds. We don't have to tolerate them. We can choose to forgive the situation and ask for something different, demand something different, require something different. So how do you know, though, when you've reached a point of forgiveness, like you personally?
I know I've reached the point of forgiveness when the things that people do no longer makes me feel like it's an attack on me, but more of a reflection of them.
I love that. Drops one. I love that. Because I can't say it any better. You know, when I'm no longer affected, that's what I was going to say.
Literally,
I'm taking your words, because it's not me. That's a you problem. That is a you problem. I love that.
This Drake said it before. If I was doing this for you, then I would have nothing left to prove. No, this for me though. Like I know whatever I'm doing is only for me and to affect how I feel. Like,
yeah. You know, I love me some Drake. So
oh,
Drake
man.
said it. If Drake said it.
Law.
So let's talk about some steps for forgiveness.
Okay.
I wrote some things down. And one thing that I wrote down is living in the now. Mm-hmm. So if we, like I said before, if we keep bringing up the past, then we're allowing ourselves to continue to be re-traumatized. So take it for what it is, whether you realize it or not. If you hold on to resentment, you're living in the past where all that hurt originally unfolded. So you're allowing yourself to be re-hurt all over again. And you can't control the future. So if you can stay in the present and you look at that relationship, situationship, any shit for exactly what it is right now in this moment, one step to forgiveness, because you can't change what happened or what will happen. All you can change is what you do next. What do you think about that? Living in the now.
I feel like living in the now is all you really have.
That's all you got.
Especially if you are actively trying to be better in all aspects of your life, because you dictate how you want people to treat you or how you want to be treated. So you can't be like, back in 2012,
Yep.
you didn't give me the last chicken wing and I still remember it. So how I'm supposed to know that you're going to take care of me if I'm 90 and I don't remember anything? Like you they don't even correlate, but you be living back there that you can't even figure out if this is people change and they grow.
And they're not the same person.
Because you want me to believe that you're not the same person, but I'm supposed to be the same person. How does that work?
Our friendship 12 years ago is not the same friendship it was 12 years later.
Or our friendship 15 plus years ago wasn't our friendship that 5 years ago at all.
Right.
Like, at all.
So we have to see people for who they are now in this moment and take them for their word.
Literally. Like, I'm looking at you. That's you.
Exactly.
I don't know who you don't remember when I used to. No, I don't remember that. All I know is this right here, right now.
So stay in the
show
now.
me your best self also.
Yep. And that's a you thing. That's not a me thing. That's a
Listen.
you thing. Okay, so the next step that I had in steps to forgiveness is worrying about yourself. Worry about yourself, sweetheart.
Or don't worry about it, sweetheart. Like, don't worry about me, because you gotta worry about yourself.
So that's all you have control over anyway. Instead of thinking about the person who has wronged you, it may be better to take ownership of your own feelings and switch the focus to you. Worry about yourself, sweetheart.
Especially because you can only control you.
When we allow someone else to upset us, we grant them too much power over us. And only I got power over them.
And that's what I started with, taking the power back.
Yep.
So I'm not even giving you the power now. This Linnea don't even give out that power. Like you're gonna have to earn every aspect of me.
Yep.
Because I am the prize. And that's just it.
So next step, remembering who's in control of your feelings. Period. Point blank.
I always used to be like, I don't know why that person would do that to me. I would never do that to somebody.
Expecting you out of somebody
and
else.
Then it was like, I would not do that to people, but that doesn't mean they wouldn't do it to me. And I had to see people for who they are, not who I wanted them to be.
Yep.
And that made me realize if I see you for who you are, I won't even have to forgive the things you've done because I know who you are. That's a character trait of yours.
And then you get to choose how that person shows up in your life. Step number 4, own your own part. So in many life's ups and downs, we are quick to jump to judgment without assuming any personal accountability. So I could feel like you owe me an apology all I want to, but what role did I play in the situation? And take accountability for it. I own my part. I own my wrongdoing. But that doesn't change how I feel as a result of the situation. But I'm not going to put everything on you. That's the old me. That's the childish way of thinking. I did no wrong. I probably did do some things I could change.
Listen, I'm very much in tune with the cause and effect of the things I've done. I know for sure that there's some reasons why people have done certain things because of actions I've had. But that does not mean I have to actively be like, oh, they only did this because I did that. I can acknowledge it, But I also have to know that I still don't want to deal with.
Right. Step 5. Forgive and move on. This does not mean you have to allow that person back into your life. It also does not mean that you have to keep them out of your life. I think that is simply up to you and the situation. If it's something that you can decide that you want to leave the past where it's at and choose to move forward for your sake, moving forward can include or exclude a person. What do you think? I see your eyes going.
I still got some work to do.
Okay.
That's it. I don't really.
I'm sure you're not the only one.
Hey.
I'm sure you're not the only one. And you know, I can easily read and say these things. I can say move forward, exclude, include, but every situation is different. I think comprehension and conversations can change perspectives, and that's why my therapist told me to go on a confrontation tour. Have the conversations from the things that are continuing to bother you, and you decide what happens next. And that was me choosing to include or exclude. And some things I was able to move past and move forward with people, and some things I wasn't, and I don't have the same relationships with those people anymore. And at the end of it, I'm okay. And for me, that's all that matters.
Ooh, don't worry about me, sweetheart.
But that's where you have to leave it. You have to be okay. And realize that I might not need that I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Because it might not be coming at all.
You might not never get it.
And that part is the part you really need to be okay with. Even though somebody may never be sorry, you are allowed to forgive them and move on however you see fit.
However you see fit.
You.
YOU. That's the end point. I was going to ask you takeaways. You know, what are your takeaways from this episode? And I think that just summed it up. You have to be okay. You have to be okay with you. If you feel any of the feels and you can't address it, or they're not going to be acknowledged, you decide what happens next.
Might cost you some more people though.
Hey, my circle gets smaller and smaller every year, and that's okay.
I don't even know I got a circle at this point. It's a little dot. Like,
yeah. Sometimes it's just me standing in that circle.
Sometimes I'm standing outside of it. It's the other personalities in here.
But if it costs you people, then those people may be worth the cost. You know, it may be worth it, because I'm not sacrificing my boundaries for nobody anymore. I'm not. I'm going to say how I feel respectfully. And if you can't respect how I feel, then sorry. But I'm not sorry.
Listen.
Okay, so let's end with a would you rather.
Okay.
Would you rather forgive or forget?
To be completely honest, prior to the work I'm doing on myself, for myself, I would probably have chose forget. But in the space that I am in right now, I would much rather forgive, because I do not want to have any ill feelings towards anybody, because I feel like that adds more weight to me. Mm-hmm. It disturbs my peace. It disturbs my growth. It disturbs all of the things that I want to do for myself. So I would rather forgive.
I would rather forgive as well. But for my reason to forgive is because I don't want to forget how somebody continued to make me feel. Because if I forgive you, then I know what I'm looking out for the next time. Mm-hmm. If there's going to be a next time, I know what I'm looking out for. So I need to be aware, I need to be conscious, and I need to remember. So I'm choosing to forgive, and I need to be in my own peace. All right, guys, that is it for today. Thank you for kicking it on a blue couch with us. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.